Hey everybody, this is Eric Andrew coming to you live from Eric Andrew Studios, which are nestled right in my dining room. And I am bringing to you Sobriety and Everything Else, the podcast on YouTube, Sobriety and Everything Else. Welcome, welcome. So today, what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is this idea of what does sobriety mean? How do we define this idea of sobriety? So I want to read to you, a definition of sobriety according to kind of the powers to be, uh, meaning the actual definition. And then we're going to talk about kind of off of that, what does all that really mean? Okay. So sobriety refers to the physiological and psychological state of being unaffected by the presence of an intoxicant. For people who are in recovery from substance or alcohol use, the definition of sobriety is similar to the definition of abstinence. It means living a life free of drug or alcohol use. So for many people in the world of sobriety, that's exactly what it means, to stop using the substance in their lives. Period. Over. Right? So what are some of the other working definitions that might be out there? In the world of recovery today, we have many things that we talk about. Some people talk about it in a positive way. Some people talk about it in a negative way. Some of it is, so we have a term out there is called California sober or West Coast sober. The idea of all of that is that it's not sobriety from everything. It's sobriety from the one thing that's causing you the most problems. Um, Remember that many of us are probably addicted to a lot of different things. Some of them actually are not things that would really harm us that much. So if you think about, the idea of the gym, maybe you go to the gym 6 days a week, maybe even 7 days a week sometimes, and you have to get the gym in or else type of idea. Maybe you are addicted to ice cream, meaning you have to have ice cream every night before you go to bed, or you will be in a bad mood. You know, Maybe you're not only addicted to alcohol, but maybe you also smoke cigarettes, or maybe, hopefully not, but maybe you have found yourself connected to and having a problem letting go of prescription drugs for pain. So there might be a lot of different things that are out there for you that are going on in the world of addiction, and certainly things that you might need to get sober from. One of the beliefs that are out there is this idea that we need to get sober from one thing at a time, that we need to focus in on the one thing that is doing the most harm to us first, and then work our way off of that. So you do see a lot of people in the world of sobriety that are doing that might, maybe they're using alcohol or they're trying to be sober from alcohol, and they might still use marijuana, or they may smoke cigarettes. So that kind of thing. When you get into the harder, like, drug part, which is not really the part I want to get into because I don't know enough about it, there are other ways that they do that are similar. Again, they're trying to use, I know marijuana has now become a therapy for some usages of drugs out there to try to help curtail the need for that drug. So there's some different ways to go about it. I'm not suggesting any one way is right or wrong. We tend to, in this country, or in the West at least, to look at things as all or nothing. Either you are doing this and you're totally clean from everything, or you're not. One of the things I think can be a problem in all of this is this idea of perfectionism. Many of us come into this idea of sobriety, and there's other things that are connected to that. And one thing that I've seen from a lot of people is concept of perfectionism, wanting to be perfect at whatever they are doing. So they will jump into things full-fledged, full throttle, give it all they have, live the lifestyle all the way through, and then get burned out and end up falling because they can't sustain it. So we see this a lot, and it makes a lot of sense to take things a step at a time. It makes a lot of sense to work on the one thing that might be the biggest problem that is causing the most grief and issues, whether it's physically, psychologically, whether it's in relationships, job, whatever, and focus on that to make that the best it can be and get better and get stronger from that, and then tackle some of the other issues that might be out there. I've known a lot of people who did exactly that they focused on alcohol, and then the next thing that they decided they wanted to get rid of smoking marijuana, or they decided that they wanted to quit smoking cigarettes. But that ended up coming later. In some cases, it was just a few months later. In other cases, it was years later. But they did one thing at a time and focused on the one thing. They also learned to not get caught up in this idea of perfectionism, that sobriety means that you need to be perfect or you are a failure. It does not mean that. There are many, many people that go through day ones. There are many, many people that go through continuous day ones, and it does not mean they're failing. It just means that they need to try again. Maybe they need to do a different thing. What I find a lot with a lot of people like that is maybe part of what they're doing in their program isn't working, or maybe they need to do more of a certain thing that they're not doing enough of, which could be going to a meeting, maybe reading the literature, maybe, getting together with people, like-minded people, and doing that more and not getting too caught up in their everyday existence that's not allowing them to do the things that they need to stay sober. The other side of this is this concept of sober curious. And the idea of sober curious is that maybe you don't have a problem with alcohol, but you use it and you're starting to wonder if maybe my use of this is too much. And you might be looking at it from the perspective of, maybe you are on a program right now for your health and you're trying to regulate your health. So you're finding that maybe the use of alcohol, even if it's a small use, is actually hurting that progress. So you are trying to make a decision about leaving alcohol for that. It might be that there's certain activities where you don't want alcohol to be involved, and you are looking for maybe another choice, another way to go about not allowing that to be part of it. And that's part of this sober curious world. The other part of that world is actually people that, again, have not had a bottom, not had something really bad happen to them, but are really kind of considering that this kind of idea of getting rid of alcohol in their life for good makes some sense. And maybe they'd like to try it. And you hear a lot of different programs out there, like Dry January. There's others, I think Dry July, and then I believe Dry October sometimes. And there may be different names for those, but this is where people get to take a break for a month and see how it goes. And, what did they learn about it? I mean, I've met a lot of people that have done that and come out of it saying, hey, I slept better. And, when I woke up, I felt better and I had more energy and all this, but they go back to it anyway. So again, that's a choice that they're making. And that's kind of the difference between this idea of sobriety, which would be abstinence from the drug itself, whatever that might be, or sober curious, where it may be that you're picking and choosing the times that you might partake in it, and really focusing on what it is that you're doing, and does that allow for alcohol to be involved. So those are the two things in terms of this idea of sobriety. So how do we know if we have a problem? Well, one way to look at whether we have a problem or not is, how is it affecting our everyday life? So is it affecting my life in terms of my relationships, my job, my activities, or is it not? So a great example of this would be, I'm going to take something very benign that we can actually become addicted to. So I'm going to take this idea of chocolate. Let's say that you eat chocolate every single day, that every evening at night after you have dinner, that you eat chocolate. That is just something that you do, and it's gotten to the point where it's become a habit. It's something that you do all the time. And it's also become a thing where you've noticed when you don't have it that you really want it, or you crave it, and you really feel the need for it. So now it's like not only become a habit, it's starting to become a craving, and you are now becoming kind of like a need for it or an addiction to it. And let's say that so you have this little alcohol or this little chocolate addiction, and you get in a car with family to go on a vacation. You thought you packed everything, and suddenly you realize you forgot the chocolate on the counter at home. So you've just left, You've only been gone about 20 minutes. Your first thing is, oh, we left the chocolate on the counter. We need to turn around and go back. And the person driving the car is, no, we're not going back for that. That's ridiculous. We're already 20 minutes into the drive. We need to keep going. And you persist. Well, if we're not going to stop and go back, then we need to stop at a store so I can pick up some chocolate. And they're like, well, we're not going to stop right now. We're going to keep going. And if we have time later on, we'll stop. And you keep saying, well, no, we do need to stop. I really would appreciate if we would just stop so I can get it, so I know we have it, so it's one less thing I have to think about, and we can move forward. That is an addiction. And that is interfering with your life. Because look at what you're trying to do. You're trying to get the people to pull off and go off the exit and find a store for you so you can get chocolate. So all in all, 25, maybe 30 minutes of time is going to get wasted in order to cover your need for chocolate. We could argue that's an addiction, right? We could say that it's interfering with your life. So the same with alcohol. Is it an addiction? Is it interfering with your life? Is it causing you to be late for work? Is it causing you to call out for work? Is it causing your relationships to suffer, maybe even fall apart because of your volatile emotions due to your alcohol abuse? Is it causing you to not do the things in your life that you like to do, such as maybe go to the gym, run, play the piano, build model cars, whatever it might be? Have you finding yourself not doing those things anymore? All of those are very good indicators that this abuse that you have with this substance is a problem and that you need to seriously take a look at doing something about. Okay. So we've talked about sobriety. We talked about sober curious. We talked about how do we judge whether it's a problem. So let's say now that we're at that place where we've realized that it's a problem and we want to stop. So what is day one? What is day one all about? Day one is about hope. Hope that you can shake this need for alcohol, that it's not going to continue to dictate your life and how you do things, that you're going to have now the freedom to move forward and do the things that you want to do. That's the hope, that your life is going to change, that it's going to change for the better, that you're going to want to do things more and more and more and really engage in your life. And I can tell you from my own experience, and the reason I'm here is that happened to me. That when I finally was able to engage in my life, I was able to really ground myself and pay attention to what was happening around me. Things got better. My job got better. My relationships got better. My activities got better. I was willing and able to get up in the morning on a weekend and go on a hike or go on a run or whatever it might be, because I wasn't hungover or tired. I slept well because I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night with, a hangover or with the beginnings of a hangover, with anxiety going 1,000 miles an hour. All of that ended. So when I say day one is hope, that's what I mean. Okay, so we've talked about all this stuff. So what's a tip? What's something that you could do if you were on your day one? What's something that you could incorporate right away? One thing that you could incorporate right away is this idea of pausing. And what I mean by that is when you are triggered. So let's say you're at your job and something comes up and you get an argument with your boss and it's made you angry and mad. Now, many of us have been around people that immediately say, wow, what a rough day this has been. I think I'm going to go get a drink. And it's become commonplace to say that. It's been commonplace to do that. And maybe you're one of those people. What I'm encouraging you to do right now on your day one is when you have that thought, to stop yourself, to say, wait a second, do I really want to drink, or is there a better way to handle this? Is there a better way to get past this anxious feeling I'm having about this argument? And you may find that there are better ways. That, hey, you know what? I could take the dog for a walk when I get home. Let me do that first. And what I would actually suggest too is don't not promise yourself a drink. So do it this way. Hey, you know what? yeah, I feel like I really want to drink. It was a rough day and everything, but you know what? Before I have that drink, I think I'm going to take the dog for a walk. And then after that, then I'll have that drink. And then you come back, you're still feeling the craving a little bit. It was great taking the dog for a walk. I realize though there's a couple other things I need to get done. So I'm going to go and sweep out the garage right now while I'm thinking about it. And then after that, maybe I'll take a drink. So what you're doing is you're putting things in the way of the drink, right? So you're thinking of alternatives, things that you could do differently that might help you get over this anxious feeling that you're having about your boss. And the idea is that you continue to do that until the craving goes away. And usually for most people, it's about 30 minutes, the craving will dissipate. It'll start to go away. In some cases, it goes away a lot quicker than others. In some cases, it's harder to go away. But you also want to try to trick your brain into thinking about, hey, these other things are good solutions to my anxiety. And eventually they will become that. And you will find that when I'm anxious and I go to the gym and run on the treadmill, I don't feel as anxious anymore. That's a good feeling. I like that. Or, hey, when I go walking in the park after I've had a rough day, it really helps relax me and calm me down. I really enjoy doing that. So these are things where you're starting to also not only find ways to not drink, but you're also finding things that you like to do, which is a big part of the whole idea of recovery. It's learning these new things that you can start adding in. Okay? So there's my tip. So this brings us now to the end of our episode. I appreciate that you were all here. I will be back in a couple of weeks. We will be talking about what is everything else. What does that really mean? What does a sober life look like? I'm putting all this in the front of everything first because I really want you to be excited about the idea of getting sober. I don't want you to think it's this chore that is going to stink and suck and your life is going to be horrible. I want you to see all the positives. So I'm going to lay out the positives in this concept of how we stay sober and how we move forward. I've loved bringing this to you. I'm excited about the future of this podcast and where we might be going. And I hope to hear from you. So please email me at ericandrewcoaching12@gmail.com. Or you can go right to my website, ericandrewcoaching.com, and leave a message there as to maybe some ideas that you might want to see moving down the road, some topics you might want us to cover, and we'll get this thing going. So have a great next couple of weeks, and I will see you soon.